This video is brought to you by Squarespace. I often get people ask me, is parkour legal? Are you breaking the law when you do it? And the answer, at least in the UK, is yes, it's legal if it's in a public area. However, there was one small town by the name of Horsham that completely banned parkour.
Horsham, especially in the early 2010s, was a very iconic place for parkour in the UK. The scene here was massive, and there was a lot of big names, most notably being Benj and Max Cave. Now, I'm sure you don't need me to explain who Benj and Max Cave are, but for those who don't know, Benj and Max Cave are part of Stora, the biggest and most famous parkour team on the planet. And this little market town of Horsham was where they started doing parkour. There are so many epic parkour moments in Horsham, particularly from Benj and Max Cave. In fact, just behind me you can see where Benj did that massive run in precision in Cavemen. The parkour community in Horsham was really big. The spots are really good, but most notably, the rooftops. Now, the rooftops are going to be an important part of this story, but just briefly, Horsham is known for having a really elaborate system of rooftops, which no doubt led to Max and Benj being so good at rooftop parkour. However, despite the significance of parkour in Horsham, on Wednesday the 7th of September 2016, the Horsham Council would completely ban parkour from the town. One of the crazier things you'll find in Horsham are anti-free running signs.
We all found out about it for a County Times article, which is a local paper. Yeah. And they're basically like massive front page, it's like catch them and find them or something like that. Like, it was well dramatic. There's a lot going on with like kind of the public versus free runners. It got to the point where it was becoming a problem, like police were coming out every training session.
Alright, so here we're at Candy Box, a very iconic spot. You've no doubt seen it in tons of Stora videos. They're pretty anti-parkour here. I'm going to show you some of the anti-climb measures they've done. They've cemented little shards of glass into the wall to stop you jumping on it. This bit as well is all anti-climb.
Oh! So the population of Horsham is very elderly. There's a lot of old people there. It's the kind of town you go to retire. In turn, there isn't a lot of things to do for young people. And so when these young teenagers found parkour, it was the thing that they could just do outside. They didn't need a setup, they didn't need equipment. They could just do it for free with their friends. But this animosity grew between some of the residents of Horsham and the freerunners.
No.
Oh, my jump is up there.
I don't care where it is, leave it.
No.
No. Don't answer me back, get.
No, I'm just saying we haven't done it.
Every time the freerunner kids would go out, they would be in some kind of confrontation. Someone would shout at them and tell them to go, and out of this there grew a us against them mentality.
Ollie, go and get a job, yeah?
Yeah, we'll do, mate.
If I come back here, right?
I'm going job centre now.
Right.
I remember one time I was doing backflips and stuff like around the town. I just really started. This police guy stopped us and telling us if he caught us doing any gymnastic movements around the town, like either us or our parents would get fined £80.
Jesus.
And it was like, when you're like a 14-year-old kid, that's like, oh god, oh god, oh god, it's scary. I sent it to the Stora boys, and then they were like nice about it. They offered to pay for our fines if we ever got fined. Luckily we didn't.
Before we go on, a massive thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Squarespace is a platform designed to help you create a professional looking website. I noticed that a lot of people let down their business by having a bad looking and poorly functioning website. And it's a shame because with Squarespace, making a website doesn't need to be expensive and super hard work. Squarespace is incredibly intuitive and easy to use, meaning that you don't need to hire an expensive web developer just to make a website. Anytime that I've needed to make websites in the past, I would always use Squarespace. It was perfect for my clothing brand because it had a built-in e-commerce platform. As well, the ability to manage and send out email campaigns was super useful for marketing. So head to squarespace.com for a free trial today and save 10% off your first order of a website or domain by using the code JimmyTheGiant. Anyway, back to the video. So these two sides just couldn't see eye to eye. The freerunners felt that they were being treated like criminals, and the residents felt that freerunners didn't care about their property. And so these two sides grew further and further apart, and as time passed, things started to escalate.
2013, there was some scaffolding put up, and some guy basically tired of people climbing on his property, his scaffolding, and he shot them with an air rifle. So
What?
So he shot Max twice, and I think Luke once. I think he got done for GBH. But yeah, that was the first instance, and it just escalates from there. It became such an issue. Essentially, people stopped training because they didn't enjoy it. Because every time you'd go out, you'd get hassled.
But I have to be totally honest. Freerunners were not innocent in this situation. There were a lot of instances of freerunners just kind of being a nuisance, being rude and just kind of antisocial. And I feel like this got escalated over time. Alright, James found the dirtiest thing. I want to try it, but I'm not optimistic. Assassin's Creed line there. So if you look over my shoulder, you'll see the building in which they banned parkour in Horsham. The Horsham District Council. That stands like a dark Orwellian overlord staring at this spot here, which is one of the most famous spots in Horsham. You might recognise when Max Cave ran up here and did all of this. So we're going to look into what led to the ban. Like, why did they get so annoyed at parkour that they decided to ban it? There's an article from West Sussex County Times.co.uk. Between March 2015 and February 2016, there have been 57 recorded complaints relating to parkour, mainly in Horsham town, with one instance in West Street resulting in more than £36,000 worth of damage. But this got me curious, so I started to look into what the ban was and what the legislation that backed it said. Now I have to preface this that I'm no legal expert. Other than watching Better Call Saul, I know nothing about the law, so do not take my opinion as anything more than just an opinion. So the law that banned parkour was called a PSPO. It was part of the Horsham District Council Public Spaces Protection Order 2016 Antisocial Behaviour Crime and Policing Act 2014. A bit of a mouthful. The sport or activity of running through urban areas while performing various gymnastic maneuvers over or on man-made obstacles such as walls and buildings, known as parkour or freerunning, is hereby prohibited in any place to which the public has access within the confines of Horsham Town Centre. But hold up. There's a really obvious problem with that. And that is that the bill doesn't even do what it was designed to do. If you remember what caused this whole commotion in the beginning was to do with damage to private property. Yet nowhere in that legislation does it say about stopping people trespassing. If anything, it says the opposite. It says parkour is prohibited in any place which the public has access to. The public doesn't have access to rooftops. Rooftops are private property. So this ban doesn't stop any of that. This is where it gets interesting, because the whole stated objection was freerunners damaging property. But if we really look at it, the damage of property was only part of the reason for the ban. Today is literally just a day of splatbacks for me. I'm gonna give up on that. If I want a long day training, I can't be doing impact stuff. Well, if we look back at the legislation, this is where we can see the real reason for the ban. Free running has increased in the town centre, which has not only caused a nuisance to those witnessing such behaviour, but also damage to property. This is further compounded by the frustration that unless criminal damage occurs, there is no current legislation to deal with behaviour which is at times very distressing for those who witness it due to the likelihood of it causing serious harm. And there you have it, it's right there. They literally said that unless freerunners break the law, they can't stop them doing it. It doesn't matter if what they're doing is legal, they just don't want it to happen. And the more I think about it, it's very clear that this was their real argument in the first place. Because if you think about trespass and criminal damage and vandalism, the law already protected people from these things that were happening. From speaking to Callan, he told me that the roofs in Horsham
are very easy to access. Freerunners weren't the only ones going on these routes. Very often teenagers would just sit up there and have a drink and smoke and do what teenagers do. So through reading this, it became very clear to me that this one instance of damage was very much used to pass a ban that didn't have anything to do with criminal damage. Because it's much easier to sell the general public the idea that you're preventing criminal damage than it is to make kids jumping on walls, having fun, illegal.
I was there long enough, I can just cut it and make it look like I stuck it. I'm sorry.
As this story reached the wider parkour community, the whole entire community got behind trying to lift this ban. There was newspaper articles written, there was a protest parkour jam.
As parkour's banned in Horsham now, we better turn this one the other way.
And BBC even ran a feature on this story.
Dr. Julie Angel is an expert in parkour, and earlier she gave me her reaction to the ban in Horsham.
Parkour is a discipline, and to have a blanket ban is a great tragedy.
These freerunners that were having their passion just ripped from them felt powerless. They felt like this whole thing was happening to them and there was nothing they could do.
The government always campaigns for kids to be more active, lower obesity, or stop kids doing crime and drugs. There is nothing in Horsham for young people to do. So really, what can you do? They ban something which is seen really positive, so people are then just going out on the street and just hanging around. Whereas with us, there was a purpose. We're getting our exercise, we're training, or socialising as well. And that, it made me feel quite angry and a bit lost for a set of time. But there was things in my head that was we can actively fight this and combat this.
That's sick.
In the hearing that led to this ban, the day they passed the ban, they had an open hearing that anyone could turn up to. And only 2 freerunners were able to speak at this event. They weren't invited, they found out that this thing was happening, and 2 athletes were given 1 minute to present their argument for why parkour shouldn't be banned. It says here that the claimed damage was caused by freerunners was contested by speaker David Witchell. Shoutouts to you, David, I haven't seen you in a long time, but big up for fighting the fight. It's something we care deeply about, and we don't want to be restricted in our passion by being described as hooligans trashing our town. Then after that, Callan explained how they had the utmost respect for the community and property. But obviously, 2 scrappy looking freerunner kids weren't going to make a difference.
Banned for life.
But then, very luckily, a member of the council stood up to defend freerunners. A man named John Chidlow, who is a Conservative in the Southwater Council. John made the argument, to place freerunning, which is a defined and well-organised sport, to place it on the same level as dog fouling and dangerous driving, I really can't accept that. He continued to say that irresponsible behaviour, rather than parkour, was the cause of the criminal damage. Unfortunately, John's attempt to make an amendment to take out parkour and freerunning was unsuccessful. The protest against this ban grew. In that same hearing, there was another Conservative councillor, Matthew French, and he said that the wording in this PSPO was rather woolly in many ways, and that they were in danger of being labelled as the fun police.
Oh look, it's Jeff Winger Fun Police.
To me, this whole thing comes down to the fun police. There are some people in society that just can't allow people to have fun and do their own thing. There's this hesitancy from some people towards new ideas, new things and new activities. They scare some people. Instead of just living and let live, they instead need to propose some kind of ban on this new thing. And it got me wondering, had anything like this happened before? I loosely remembered hearing Wim Hof say that yoga used to be considered taboo. So I googled, has yoga ever been banned? And to my disbelief, I found out that yoga was banned in public schools in Alabama in 1993. Basically because they were fearful of the ideas that were promoted by yoga. This fear of the unknown and fear of beliefs and different ideas and believing that you need to shield people and protect them from these dangerous thoughts, to me is just an insecure way of looking at the world. Sure, things can be dangerous, things can injure people. Parkour is dangerous. But I just don't believe that the right response to something that might be dangerous is to ban it. The better skills to teach an individual is to be careful, safe, and mindful when it comes to exploring the world, so that they can make the right decisions. From there, that person can build a strong character and be wiser, rather than just being fearful of things they don't understand. Let's just take Max and Benj of Stora. If they listened to this ban and they quit doing parkour, they wouldn't have achieved all the things that they have done. Not only have they made a business that supports 7 of their best friends, but they've starred in films, they're making a video game. Imagine had they listened.
I was consistently emailing. It was like, please rethink what you're doing. And again, everything's just getting batted off. Parkour UK got involved with John Chidlow and all of that. I think they came to some form of agreement or arrangement, because the time that the ban was lifted was the same time that coincided with parkour being made an official UK sport.
So after a massive uproar, Stora had posted a video about the ban, there'd been protest jams. Eventually, Parkour UK would come in and kind of save the day.
So in January of 2017, the bill was changed to include the following. Unauthorized access or nuisance behavior on buildings or street furniture within Horsham Town Centre is effectively banned. So if you want to know if this ban exists, well, not really, but technically. If, for instance, you were shouting obscenities at people whilst urinating in public, and you happen to be doing that whilst standing on a wall, you could face a fine or go to jail. Although I'm pretty sure if you did that whilst not on a wall, you'd probably still get fined or sent to jail. But in reality, for the guys training here nowadays, parkour is fine. You can do parkour.
Funnily enough, one of them who fought for parkour, me and Kieran were training here earlier on. He actually came up to us and was like, I'm so glad you're still doing it, because a few years ago it was so straight.
Today?
Yeah, it was at John Chidlow.
So, I mean, like, this video is going to paint somewhat of a negative impression of the people who caused this ban. And obviously, you can tell my bias, I feel negatively towards it. But I think it's super important to have a level of understanding and compassion. And I can tell by just talking to Callan and those guys, they get it. They get why it happened. And to take a level of responsibility on themselves, understanding that the way that we present ourselves as freerunners, if we're loud and swearing and playing music really obnoxiously, it will upset people. All in all, this was a really strange time in parkour's history, and I'm so glad that this ban got technically lifted. It gives me faith in the country that I live in. If there is one thing that the British are very good at, it is kicking up a big old stink. I'd be really interested to hear your memories from this time, so leave a comment below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. The parkour bucket list is out now. You can massively help me by picking one of them up, or by donating to me on Patreon, or using the sponsor link below. Peace.